tools for collecting data. We have highlight for this meeting for the tools and characterize good measure and then quantitative qualitative data. Bagaimana kita akan mencari ukuran-ukuran, mencari data yang terbaik. How to find the measure and then the data in the good precision and in the good indicator. Data collection strategies, no one best way. Decision depend on what you need to know. For example, number or stories, and then where the data reside from environment or from the files or from people. Data itu munculnya di mana? Where is you find your data? From in-depth interview from people by people, and then or from the file is mean the secondary data ya. Kalau biasanya environment data environment biasanya primarily data primer, langsung turun ke lapangan, terjun ke lapangan. You find your data in the environment, in your di survei langsung by observation. And then resource and time available. What is your data is from the resource and time is available or not. And then the fourth is complexity of the data to be collected. Then frequency of data collection and indeed form of data analysis. Jadi di sini nggak ada strategi yang terbaik. There is no one best way for collecting your data, but it depends on what is your depends on what you need, where the data reside, and so on. Jadi disesuaikan. Rules for collecting data. First, use multiple data collection method. Use multiple data not only for available data, but you can find your data in by primary data with survey and observation, direct observation. And the second, use available data, but need to know how the measure were defined. Okay, how the measure were defined. If you find the data, you have to know what the defined data unit data collection by with you. Misalkan, for example, you using data apa ya contohnya? Investment to proxy for variable capital. For proxy the capital, you using a direct investment, DDI and FDI, direct domestic investment and FDI for foreign direct investment. But you have defined that what is the capital, and this is right. You using investment, or DDI or FDI itu sesuai nggak secara definisinya? Itu perlu ditekankan. You have highlight the define, and then how the data were collected and cleaned, to extent of missing data, and how accuracy of data was ensured. It means that when you find the data in Central Statistic Bureau, for example in Indonesia BPS ya, maybe in some years in missing data, misalkan 2001 sampai 2010 data capital PMTB. For data capital in BPS, for example in year 2005 there is no data for capital in Indonesia. So what should you do? Ya, apa yang harus kalian lakukan? Contohnya di sini ada kejadian missing data. Kalian you have to interpolating data for the missing data. Itu secara teknis ada, secara metode matematisnya ada bagaimana mengisi data yang missing tersebut. Lalu bagaimana when the data is have a higher numeric than the others. Maksudnya datanya tuh terlalu jauh gitu. There is a one outlier, maybe some outlier data. You have a clean at all. Jadi dihapuskan data yang outlier tersebut. Jangan dimasukkan. If you included the error data, you can get the bias result for your analysis. Hasilnya nanti akan jadi bias kalau data-data yang outlier, pencilan itu tetap dimasukkan. Itu harus di-cut dulu datanya. Sorry ya, agak cepat ya, soalnya saya ada rapat sore nih. There is two approach. For the first, structure approach and the second semi-structure approach. For the structure approach, all data collected in the same way, especially important for multi-site and cluster evaluation, so you can compare it. Important when you need to make comparison with alternate intervention. Ini maksudnya, sorry. Jadi when you use structure approach, for example, if you find the data and collect data and then you will running with FU, so you have to structure data. For example, cross stake or time stakes in data panel ya, data di FU itu kalian harus susun dulu. You have to arrange your data with the structure stake by time or stake by cross section. Jadi datanya terstruktur. Biasanya itu data-data numerik, biasanya data secondary yang masuk dalam structure approach. Use structure approach when need to address extend question. And then have a large sample, ini datanya banyak sekali. Know what need to be measured, and then need to show a result numerically, and then need to make comparison across different site or intervention. Jadi when you using structure approach, you have a large sample and then you can show the result numerically. It's different when you using a qualitative data ya. Qualitative data you cannot show result with numerically. And then the second is semi-structure approach. Systematic and follow general procedure, but data are not collected in exactly the same way every time. More open and fluid. It means that it's more fluid, not rigid than structure. Kalau structure ini lebih rigid, cara nyusun datanya, how to arrange your data is rigid in structure, then in the semi-structure is more fluid or not rigid. Does not follow a rigid script, might ask for more detail. Nah, di sini in semi-structure approach, you have combining from the interview and survey result. You have combining from the answer from the respondent, so you can give the more detail in your report. And then people can tell what they want in their own way. Jadi di sini kelebihannya, for the advantage, if you using semi-structure approach, you will give a more detail and sudut pandang itu apa bahasa Inggrisnya ya? You have more perspective from the one respondent and the other respondent. Perspektifnya banyak sekali, pandangannya banyak sekali antara responden satu dengan responden lainnya. And then if you using semi-structure approach, you have a good skill. You have to have a good skill for communication and correct the data in deep with the respondent. Jadi butuh skill khusus untuk mengkorek data secara clear, secara datanya itu dapat dipercaya, valid. Seperti itu. Nah, use semi-structure approach when conducting exploratory work. Ketika ingin bereksplor lebih terhadap analisis laporan kalian, kalian bisa menggunakan pendekatan ini, semi-structure approach. Seeking understanding claims and issue, untuk memahami apa sih problem sebenarnya yang terjadi di situ gitu. Need narrative or stories. Nah, ini tentu want in deep, rich and backstage information. Maybe not information you get in secondary data, but with semi-structure, with survey, with in-depth interview, you can get more rich information. For example, in backstage information that cannot publish for general ya, for public ya. Mungkin data-data tertentu itu nggak bisa dipublish secara umum. Dari sini kalian bisa menggalinya dengan cara wawancara lebih dalam kepada penduduk di situ. Seek to understand result of data that are unexpected. Kadang maybe sometime for the respondent give the answer unexpected that then the data. Jadi biasanya mungkin jawabannya di luar ekspektasi nih. Kenapa? Misalnya, for example, you have a cases that many people have buang sampah tuh, trust giving the trust in the river. Nah, itu kan kayak apa ya? Penyebabnya apa sebenarnya? Maybe for example it's a tradition, tradisitas, istilahnya tuh kebiasaan kayak gitu, habitual activity that maybe they said is normal, not illegal action. Nah, seperti itu. Nah, padahal secara regulasi itu kan hal yang nggak boleh buang sampah di sungai seperti itu. Now the characteristic of good measures. For the first is measure relevant, and then is the measure credible, valid, or reliable. Jadi for the find the good measure, you have 4 points, 4 indicator that included all relevant, credible, and valid and reliable. Ukuran-ukuran itu harus meliputi 4 komponen ini. Apa yang dimaksud dengan relevan itu sendiri? Relevant does the measure capture what matters. Don't measure what is easy instead of what is needed. Maksudnya, it means that relevant the measure that you using in your paper have capture what matters. Apa pokok permasalahannya sebenarnya? Jangan gunakan ukuran-ukuran yang mudah. Don't measure what is easy. Tapi using the measure is needed. For example, if you did a data stock capital kan variabelnya K ya, notasinya K, capital. But you using investment, DDI, direct investment. Maybe it's easy instead, but if not needed, it's not needed if you using DDI, because my variable is stock capital. Stock capital is you have defined that included capital plus depresiasi. Nah, kalau depresiasi digabung dengan capital maka nggak cocok kalau gunain data DDI itu. It's not needed if you using DDI, but you have using fixed capital PMTB. PMTB itu bahasa Inggrisnya apa itu? Penanaman modal tetap bruto. Penanaman modal tetap bruto. Ada yang bisa bantu bahasa Inggrisnya apa itu? Halo? PMTB bahasa Inggrisnya apa? Fixed PMTB. Apa Revi coba? PMTB in English apa? Penanaman modal tetap bruto, gross fixed formation capital. Saya lupa bahasa Inggrisnya. Nah, intinya gini, if you need gross fixed capital percent, apa? Apa bahasa Inggrisnya? Gross fixed capital percent. Gross fixed capital percent. Berarti apa? Investmentnya. Ya, nanti dicarilah. Pokoknya ketika Anda mencari ukuran data yang relevan, jangan cari gampangnya dulu. Oke, saya menggunakan capital, saya gunakan DDI aja deh yang gampang. Tapi itu sesuai nggak dengan apa yang Anda butuhkan? Sementara yang Anda butuhkan adalah stock capital. Stock capital is not relevant if you using DDI. It's better when you using PMTB, fixed capital formation kalau nggak salah bahasa Inggrisnya. And then the second, the data has credibility. It's measured, believable. Will it be viewed as a reasonable and appropriate way to capture the information? Jadi datanya harus credible. maybe in Indonesia the credible data will publish in ini ya BPS ya, Central Statistik Bureau. Nah, datanya harus kredibel, yang ngeluarin harus instansi-instansi yang terkredibel, dapat dipercaya datanya itu. Kemudian datanya harus valid. The data has a valid. How well does the measure capture what is supposed to? Our waiting list of valid measure of demand. Jadi datanya harus valid. Sudah lolos dari misalkan error. The data has the clean, is not included by error data, is valid data ya. Sudah teruji benar-benar datanya secara validitas itu sudah lolos lah istilahnya dari mungkin asumsi yang membuat data itu error. And the last is reliability. A measured precision and stability extent to which the same result will be obtained with repeated trial. It means that when you're using one measure in one time, it has the same result when you're using in the next time, in the next period. For example, if you using how weight of newborn infant, kalian akan menggunakan apa? Timbangan. Timbangan itu apa bahasa Inggrisnya itu? Timbangan. Contoh kedua aja deh. Speed. If you want to check the speed for your motorcycle or your car, you using a stopwatch. Stopwatch is very reliability tools to measure the speed. Jadi konstan hasilnya. Mau dipakai saat ini, besok maupun lusa, hasilnya sama karena alatnya itu sudah secara reliability, alatnya sudah teruji, sudah disahkan bahwa stopwatch itu memang alat ukuran mengukur kecepatan. Kemudian timbangan kayak gitu. Nah, ini baru masuk kuantitatif, lalu kita kualitatif. The characteristics of quantitative approach, data in numerical form. Data can be precisely measured, datanya gampang diukur. For example, age, cost, length, height, area, volume, and so on. But the challenge for the quantitative approach is harder to develop. Maybe for the first time, it's harder to develop the modeling. Yeah, you have struggle for develop your model, but in the last, it's easier to analyze because in quantitative you can using many methods in quantitative approach, and then the result you can easier to analyze. Maybe for example, the result by OLS hasilnya seperti apa. You can say that the result is significant. Itu what is the indicator? You can say that your result is significant. Itu kan jelas kalau di kuantitatif bisa dianalisisnya seperti itu, bisa dibuktikan seperti itu. And then you have improve your analysis, not only the result for the econometric or the quantitative approach, but you can improve your skill to analyze with your own description, ya, dengan kata-kata kalian, dengan dikaitkan with included in the current or real issue right now, ya, dikaitkan dengan isu-isu yang terjadi saat itu. Kenapa kok? Why your result is not significant? Because of the many policy that not banyak kebijakan yang masih kurang bagus. Many policy is not good in our country, maybe for example. And why is economic growth in Indonesia in 2020 is drop because of global pandemic, for example, just like that. But you have expand your analysis. And then qualitative approach. Biasanya data kualitatif ini deal with description, data that deal with description, non-numeric data. And then data that can be observed or self-reported, but not always precisely measured. Nah ini, the problem of when you using qualitative approach, the data, many data is giving you a biased result. Ya, datanya nanti hasilnya biasanya bias. Why it's biased? Because it's self-reported. Many people maybe can answer at all, menutup-nutupi ya. Data itu semua biasanya mungkin nggak semua orang bisa atau mau menjawab pertanyaan kalian dengan jujur. Nah, itu permasalahannya di situ. The problem is the qualitative approach. Many people, many respondents not giving you the answer clearly, not clear. Jadi, it can increase the bias result in your data. And then less structure but easier to develop, ya. And then can provide rich data, detail and widely applicable. It's challenging to analyze. Nah, tantangannya di sini is challenging the analyst because it's not used numeric data. So you have to prove it that maybe this cases is because of blah 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 blah. Itu analisisnya harus kuat. You have good analysis in when you using qualitative data. Itu butuh sekali effort lebih lah dibandingkan kalau kuantitatif. Kalian ada bantuan hasil tools yang mempermudah kalian gitu, mendukung analisis kalian. And the second is labor intensive to collect. You have using many person to collect your data. Maybe if you want get the primary data, minimal berapa ya? Misalkan, for example, you using 100 respondent. It is possible if you just work with yourself one surveyor for 100 respondent. It's not impossible with the limited time. Biasanya itu skripsi setengah tahun ya, satu semester buat mengkolek data 100 responden. Bayangin aja, it's not efficient. So you have recruit more labor, pekerja istilahnya bantuan teman atau bantuan lainnya, dan itu pun pasti nggak cuma kan mempekerjakan orang untuk menanyai responden memberikan kuesioner ke responden 100 itu. And then usually generate longer reports. Pasti hasilnya lebih panjang, laporannya tuh lebih tebal dibandingkan kuantitatif, banyak ceritanya soalnya di situ. Nah, if you want to conduct statistical analysis, so you have to use quantitative. If you want to be precise, you have to use quantitative. If you know what you want to measure and want to cover a large group, you have to using quantitative. And the others if you want only narrative and in-depth information, you can using qualitative. And if you're not sure what you are able to measure, kamu nggak yakin pakai ukurannya apa, maka gunakan aja juga kualitatif. And then if you don't need quantify the result, you also using qualitative. But in economics, student in economics, for example, economic development, maybe I suggest you for using quantitative. Kalau kualitatif nanti analisisnya agak susah nanti. Nggak ada hasil numerikalnya. Bisa juga kalian you can using mixed method, gabungan antara kuantitatif, kualitatif juga bisa. Ini nggak usah. Nah, di sini in the section 4 udah mau habis sih. Data collection tool, we can how the data collection. We can use some tools. For the first party RPC patrolling methods, second is record and secondary data, third observation, fourth is survey and interviews, fifth focus group discussion ya biasanya itu, and the sixth diaries, journal, self-reported checklist, and then expert judgment, DLP techniques, and others tools. Apa itu? What is the participatory methods? Involve groups or communities heavily in data collection. For example, community meetings, mapping, and transact works. Jadi orang di sini butuh komunitas, community to komunitas itu dikumpulkan untuk memperoleh data collection. The community involve group or community ya di sini. Community meeting itu apa? What is the community meeting? One of the most common participatory methods. Must be well organized, agree on purpose. Di sini, some community, some people collected in one time in one room, so they have discussing about the cases, about your project, your research, and it must be well organized. Jadi ada susunannya gitu, disusun secara bagus. The participant have agreed on the purpose. Tujuannya apa? What is the purpose of this meeting? And then establish ground rules. Who will speak? Diatur siapa yang akan menjadi speaker. Who will speak in this meeting? And then time allocated for the speaker. Waktunya seberapa lama speaker itu akan diberikan waktu berbicara. And then format for question and answer. Di sini diskusi gitu, tapi the participant is the community, komunitas umum. And the second is mapping, drawing or using existing maps. It's useful when your research is talk about land use. Maybe in economics, we can use the subject of ekonomi perkotaan dan pedesaan, rural and urban economics. Ini biasanya menggunakan metode mapping. Nah, kalian ingin, if you want to know the pattern of land use in urban perkotaan, jadi kalian bisa menggunakan metode mapping. The pattern of land use and then natural resources ini juga bisa kalian ketika risetnya berkaitan dengan environment, resources, environment, ekonomi sumber daya alam. Ini bisa menggunakan metode mapping. So you have survey in the located yang sudah di mapping itu, the located mapping dengan kasus yang biasanya berkaitan dengan ini, ekonomi sumber daya alam, ekonomi perkotaan, pedesaan, kayak gitu, yang harus kalian mapping terlebih dahulu area survei kalian. And then transact works. Nah, transact work itu apa sih? Aku agak bingung nih jelasin bahasa Inggrisnya. Jadi gini, transact works itu the surveyor, for example you as a surveyor, you work, berjalan bersama masyarakat di sekitar situ. Gimana tuh jelasinnya? Tolong bantu saya deh. Jadi kalian misalkan punya kasus kayak ini. Seberapa besar sih dampak dari pembuangan sampah masyarakat itu ke sungai terhadap tingkat kesehatan di masyarakat sekitar? If you have cases research, for example, the impact of externalities impact for people throwing the trash in river to the health indicator So you as the surveyor, you go along in the river with the masyarakat sekitar, with the people with live here the river, and then discussing with them, not only the adult people, but also you can ajak anak-anak juga. You can follow the kids and adult people and to show them what is he or she like with his environment, with this condition yang kotor, maybe is dirty river maybe. So apakah bapak ibu itu suka nggak seperti ini? Nah, ditarik secara emosional ya, secara psikis. Enggak, saya nggak suka dengan perkotoran ini. Nah, ditarik lagi, apakah bapak sering membuang sampah di sini? Oh iya, saya mungkin ada yang jawab ya, oh iya saya membuang sampah setiap pagi hari. Kenapa? Ditanya lebih mendalam, kenapa alasan Bapak membuang sampah itu di sini, padahal sudah disediakan tempat pembuangan sampah yang sudah disediakan. Oh itu hal yang wajar kok. Nah itu kan secara legal, itu kan udah ya, nggak diperbolehkan. Oh saya sudah terbiasa dari dulu, memang buangnya ke sini, nggak ada yang lain, atau jauh dari tempat sampah seperti itu. Nah dari situ kita tanya yang anak-anak, kalian suka nggak dengan tempat main kalian yang kotor seperti ini? Nah, itu ditarik secara psikis, masyarakat itu dilihatkan, diajak ke lokasi. Senang nggak dengan kondisi seperti ini? Nah, diskusi-diskusi kecil seperti itu menjadi catatan lebih kalian. Itu kadang mereka akan memberikan jawaban-jawaban yang unexpected. Nah, jawaban di luar ekspektasi kalian. Itu yang dinamakan transit walk. Nanti yang nggak mudeng ini tolong dibantu ya, siapa Farida atau siapa Laras atau Lala dibantu dikasih tahu si Habibullah, Adnan dan Ahmed Barokat dikasih tahu transit walk. Aku bingung soalnya kalau jelasin ini dalam tulis. Transit walk itu apa? Pendekatannya lebih ke sisi psikis gitu, melibatkan masyarakat atau komunitas yang terkait untuk terjun survei bersama-sama di situ. And the second the record and secondary data is, for example, you using file or records and then data from census and then electronic mails, newspaper, and television report. Nah, ini data-data yang umum, data secondary, data yang tersedia. There is the available data in the between online and offline, biasanya ada semua. Dokumen-dokumen, budget itu ada. We include it in secondary data. And then, what is the advantage and challenge of if you using available data? For the advantage, often less expensive and faster than collecting the original data again. Datanya lebih murah lah, lebih murah dibandingkan kalian harus data primer dan lebih cepat karena datanya sudah tersedia, sudah diolah, sudah ada datanya di BPS. And the challenges, tantangannya, there may be coding error or other problem. Maybe some of the data have a error, and data may not be exactly what is needed. You may have difficulty getting access, and then you have to verify validity and reliability of the data. Datanya mungkin kebanyakan masih banyak yang error jika kalian menggunakan data yang sudah tersedia. Gitu. Nah, ini pun masih dipertanyakan juga untuk verifikasi validitas dan reliabilitasnya sudah benar nggak. Nah, data yang the data there is yang masih banyak problem itu biasanya data ini loh, pertanian, agricultural data. Ini mau apa sih? Ini tadi ya, terakhir the last we have telling about the advantage and challenges using available data. Nah, tantangannya ini tadi datanya masih bias. Banyak yang bias atau error biasanya ketika menggunakan available data. If you using available data, there is many error. Some data is still error or bias. Nah, itu yang perlu you have hati-hati. Hati-hati, sorry. And the tools 3 is observation. See what is happening. Melihat apa yang terjadi di sekitar kalian. For example, you observation about traffic pattern, land use pattern, layout of city and rural area, quality of housing, condition of roads, condition of buildings, who goes to a health clinic. Ini biasanya studi-studi tentang rural and urban economics, about resources and environment economics. Biasanya menggunakan observasi langsung. They using direct observation. And the advantage and when you using observation, data is actual. Datanya aktual pada saat itu juga. When you collect data on actual and versus and then self-reported behavior or perception, it is real time. Jadi datanya itu real time pada saat itu dan ini self-report gitu langsung oleh para responden, diberikan langsung jawaban oleh para responden berdasarkan perilaku-perilaku para responden tersebut. Collect data on actual and self-reported behavior or perception. Persepsinya nanti beda-beda. There is a many perception from the one respondent to other respondent. And so the answer is different. Biasanya bermacam-macam. Any kind of the answer. And the challenges is observer bias. Nah, ini tantangannya masih sama. Kalau data primer gitu yang langsung survei itu tantangannya masih datanya bias. The observer bias, potentially unreliable. Interpretation and coding challenges. Sampling can be a problem, can be labor intensive. Butuh banyak bantuan nih di sini. Low response rates. Jadi responnya kadang nggak cepet karena mungkin some data have to be burden, ditutup-tutupi gitu. Some respondent not giving the answer clearly di sini. Nah, sehingga the result your result will be biased hasilnya. Sehingga potentially unreliable. The fourth is survey and interview. Nah, ini hampir sama. It will be same with the observation. But in this one, you have a in-depth interview. Wawancaranya lebih dalam dibandingkan yang observasi tadi ya. Excellent for asking people about perception, opinion, and ideas. Less accurate for measuring behavior. Nah, sedikit akurasinya masih sangat kurang nih di sini juga. Sample should be representative of the world. Big problem with response rates. Nah, ini tadi udah ya, perbedaan antara structure versus semi-structure survey. Structure harder to develop but easier to complete, easier to analyze, and more efficient when working with the large number. And when you using semi-structure, easier to develop but more difficult to complete it. Harder to analyze, and then the subject will to be biased. Ini tantangannya. Ada kurang lebihnya sih, dari plus and minus when you choosing structure or semi-structure. Metodenya apa? The modes of survey administration bisa menggunakan by phone, telepon survey. If you have many respondent, you can more efficient if you have the data of telephone number. You can call them and ask the question so it's more efficient. But you have high cost ya untuk biaya pulsa dan lain-lain. And then self-administrated questionnaire distributed by mail, email, or website. Nah, yang sekarang kan bisa menggunakan Google Form, email, terus link-link yang survei itu loh, yang sudah terstruktur. Kemudian, nah ini bahasanya, if you want the respondent not only from local but also foreigner, you can giving the dwi language, double language. In Indonesia, dwi bahasa ya, in Indonesia and then in English, ditranslasikan juga, sehingga ketika respondennya dari orang asing bisa menjawab juga pertanyaan kalian. Keuntungannya, the advantage using survey, best when you want to know what people think, believe, or perceive. Only they can tell you that. And then the challenges, people may not accurately recall their behavior or maybe reluctant to reveal their behavior. Biasanya kan menyangkal ya mereka, if it is illegal or stigmatized. Jadi menurut saya membuang sampah tuh nggak apa-apa kok, yang wajar. Padahal kan secara aturan itu nggak boleh atau ilegal. But many people think that do or say they do is not always the same as what they actually do. Berbohong lah istilahnya ya. They liar or they burden the actually answer gitu. Jadi menutup-nutupi jawaban yang sebenarnya. Sulitnya di situ. And the fifth is using focus group discussion. Nah, type of qualitative research where small homogeneous group of people are brought together to informally discuss specific topics under the guidance of a moderator. Purpose to identify issues and themes, not just interesting information and not scans. Jadi it's different between focus group discussion and the first tools. Tadi apa yang first tools itu community meeting, hampir mirip mengumpulkan orang, cuma for the focus group discussion, we have collect some expertise, some people that have influence in the public, in the citizen. Jadi orang-orang yang punya pengaruh, tidak semua komunitas itu. Misalkan you using only the head of kepala desa itu, head of village, maybe kemudian tokoh adat, kemudian you using the government in the regency. Jadi tokoh-tokoh yang expertise di situ, tidak hanya not only from the government staff, but only you using many stakeholder in swasta ya, public, and then the citizen, masyarakat, tokoh. Jadi ada perwakilan dari sisi masyarakat, misalkan menggunakan tokoh masyarakat, the head of the community, and then kemudian dari pemerintah misalkan kepala desa, the head of the village, kemudian atau bisa sampai bupati, the head of regency, the head of the cities, and mungkin dari sektor swasta, the public, you can use maybe perusahaan yang berkaitan dengan itu, dengan studi kasus kalian. The manager in department khusus yang berkaitan dengan pengolahan limbah atau apa, itu bisa dilibatkan. Ini in focus group discussion, you have choose some expertise, not all people, maybe for 5 until 10% to group discussion. And ya secara legalnya mereka sudah dipercayai untuk mewakili dari pihak-pihak yang terdampak maupun yang non terdampak, seperti itu. And then in focus group discussion, we have a process. We have 4 phase and action: opening, warm up, main body, and closure. Opening, kita buka dengan we have opened the FGD with icebreaker. Explain the purpose of your research, ground rules, and introduction. And warm up, dipanasi dulu, jangan langsung ke topik tujuannya, nanti jadi salah kaprah mereka menangkapnya. Related experience, stimulate group interaction, start with less threatening and simple question. Awali, for the first is giving simple question. Then the next phase is main body. Move to more threatening and sensitive. Baru ini kita menjurus ke pertanyaan-pertanyaan sensitif and complex question. Elicit deep responses, connect emergence data to complex broad participation. Jadi nggak ujuk-ujuk. You have a 4 space and istilahnya alon-alon. Jangan langsung slow down and just keeping moving with the 4 pace ya. Jadi sesuai fasenya. Awali dulu dengan ice breaking and then simple question, then sensitive and complex question. And the last closure, end with the closure type question. Summarize and refine present theories, and then don't forget to thank the participant. Nah, ini penting sekali. It's very very important to thank the participant. Karena yang kita undang, we have invited important person, important expertise. So you have to thank the participant. Kalau di institusi ini justru mereka dikasih honor karena diundang sebagai speakers, sebagai pembicara karena memang keahlian mereka. Jadi memang benar-benar yang diundang di dalam FGD itu orang-orang yang expertise dan diharapkan mampu memberikan jawaban yang baik dan benar secara teori dan nyatanya di situ seperti itu kasusnya. Ini bisa baca sendiri lah, advantage-nya apa, challenges-nya apa. Mungkin tantangannya, analysis is time consuming. Partisipan not representative, bisa juga partisipannya hati-hati. Kalau ngundang benar-benar expert gak di situ, gak gitu. Keuntungannya can be deducted relatively quickly and easily. May take less staff. Ini nggak usah lah, diaries and self-reported. Ini sudah saya unggah di Elena, bisa dibaca-baca sendiri. And the last is expert judgment. Expert judgment, for example, gini, every year in Indonesia from the financial ministry have published APBN, revenue and anggaran pendapatan dan belanja negara. Nah itu carilah APBN setiap tahunnya. Nah, in APBN, the government have a predict economic growth, and then predict inflation in Indonesia for the next year, tahun depan. APBN kan biasanya dikeluarkan di bulan apa ya? Di bulan akhir tahun lah. Misalkan Agustus to 2020. The government has published APBN for the year of 2021. So in this published said that economic growth in 2021 is maybe kemarin depresiasi ya, maybe 4% because of this is a recession phase. Kita sudah menghadapi resesi saat ini. Untuk 4% aja itu cukup tinggi, katakanlah 4%. Tapi sebelumnya, before the government giving the prediction that economic growth is 4%, the staff, bawahannya lah istilahnya ya, bawahannya, the staff has has a process and running data. Maybe they said that economic prediction only 2%, itu kan jauh sekali. Nah, 2%, but it's not final result. The staff giving the running data to the expert judgment. Dalam hal ini adalah atasannya, ketua kepala BKF-nya misalkan, Badan Keuangan Fiskal. Itu dia menetapkan, enggak, jangan 2%. Menurut saya masih optimis kok. Indonesia is still optimized that economic growth will growing in 4%. There is expert judgment. Nah, itu the final result from the expert judgment. And then not all people is we can say is he or she is expert judgment. Ini berdasarkan strukturnya dan secara potensi kapabilitasnya orang tersebut memang di bidangnya yang kita katakan sebagai expert judgment. Nah, for the other example maybe contohnya gini, yang kasus COVID lah, yang baru-baru aja ya. Jadi contohnya gini, in these cases Indonesia has predict when Indonesia have an period of COVID-19. Many institutions have predicted. Kalau yang dulu malah memprediksi Mei itu udah selesai. Many institutions predict that in May or June Indonesia has the end of COVID period. But it's until now, bulan apa ini? November ya. Until November 2020 is still going COVID period. Jadi Indonesia has used many expertise for example using LIPI or CSIS or apa ya, lembaga lainnya lah yang khusus riset. Jadi itu yang dikatakan sebagai salah satu expertise judgment ya. Contoh lembaga expertise judgment.